7 players to trade for, 3 to trade away. This is the WalterPicks YouTube show, and we're going to start right away with Chase Brown. I know if you got him for your team, you may be a little bit worried, but that's exactly why he's a buy low. Number one is his rush share. First in the entire league. When the Bengals run the football, Chase Brown is running the football. That is something amazing. Volume is always something we want in fantasy football. The second thing, the target's not great, but I do think this could improve. So that's another reason for a little bit of upside. But let me get to my favorite part. And this is why I do like to have the WalterPicks app. It just gives you the context you need that other apps simply don't have. And it's got the red zone targets, the red zone opportunities right here. You can see rush attempts in the red zone. He has the first place in goal line attempts. Now, that's not amazing just because, hey, if you get multiple goal line attempts, that number keeps going up. We want you to score on the first goal line attempt. But 3 goal line attempts in yesterday's game, 2 goal line attempts in week 1. You can see that right here. He even had 1 red zone target in week 1 as well. And when someone has all of the rush share and a lot of the goal line work, they're going to be amazing for fantasy football. So take advantage while you can. He does have a little bit of a tough stretch coming up against Minnesota, against Denver, against Detroit. But then the schedule certainly opens up for the rest of the season. I mean, look at that playoff schedule. He faces Baltimore, which that's going to be probably a good matchup for the running back, especially in the pass game. He faces Miami, who's been awful. He faces Arizona. So I'm already thinking week 6 on. Now is the time to buy low on Chase Brown before it's too late. The next buy low is Justin Jefferson, another guy where fantasy managers are panicking. Only 13 points per game. The target share is amazing, but let's just head right to the game log. Unfortunately, it has not gone well. Only 4 receptions in week 1, 3 receptions in week 2. Thankfully, he's been able to squeeze out some at least decent fantasy points up to this level, but it should just get better. That's kind of the bottom line, is that J.J. McCarthy, as a rookie, they will figure it out. And let's take a look at his schedule. Obviously, it does get pretty brutal here against Chicago. Their defensive rating will probably go down after this last week against Detroit. But Green Bay, Seattle, Washington, Dallas, I still think that Justin Jefferson is going to find a way. I think the team finds a way to get him more involved. I mean, 3 receptions is simply not good enough. They will find ways. They'll make it easier. J.J. McCarthy will be learning. He's only played 2 professional games, so let's give the guy a little bit of a break. And the fact that Justin Jefferson has still managed 11 points and almost 15 points in the 2 games that looked absolutely awful, the floor is absolutely right there. So if you can trade for him around that value, I think he's a good option to try to get for your team. Now, our first trade away is George Pickens. And I know some people don't agree with this, which is exactly why you can sell high right now. We go over to the game log here. He had a really good game against the Giants, but if you remember the game, he had a touchdown at the very end of the game. And people say, yes, fantasy points count at the end of the game. I agree, but in most games, you're not in like that battle, like need to score right now. That just doesn't happen. At most games, one team is in that mode, and the other team is probably trying to run out the clock. It was kind of the back and forth battle here against the Giants. So it's not going to be such a shootout every single week at the end of every game. You also look at his receptions, only 5. I mean, he had a couple of those again at the very end of the game, those last drives. When you're just not involved in quarters 1, 2, and 3, and most of the 4th, that's the kind of player that I'm not super excited about. And without the touchdown, without overtime, he played a full extra quarter as well. It's not as impressive as the box score looks. So while the numbers look fine, if you just look at the box score, you look at the involvement in quarters 1, 2, and 3, that is not the kind of player you want to have on your team. You do not want to have somebody that absolutely needs to go to overtime or needs to have a super close game. Now, in the red zone, I think we have his red zone stats here. Yeah, he did have 4 red zone targets. So that is amazing. He had 1 red zone target in week 1 that wasn't very close. So that is the upside. That's why someone would trade for him. And you may be able to sell very high right now after this week when people look at the red zone, when people see the opportunity. And I'll tell you what, this is why I always sell high, because if you can sell him as a player who got 18 points this week, you can't lose. If you can sell him for a guy that's going to be getting this on a regular basis, you can't lose, even if he continues this. So that's one reason why I want to sell high on George Pickens. He had an amazing game. This is a lot like his ceiling, one of the best games he's going to have all year. So if you can sell high now, lock in the value. We have our first combo sell high and buy low of the video, and you'll see what I mean by that in a second. So Trevion Henderson is our buy low. He was not majorly involved, but one thing I want to remind you of is week 1. Week 1, they were down. Week 2, they faced Miami. They got off to a 12-0 lead. It ended up being a little bit closer, but they ended up going with Ramondre Stevenson a little bit more. Trevion Henderson had 6 receptions, He had 27 rush yards. That's pretty good. And the snap share, obviously, we look at in the WalterPicks app, snap share was bad. So if the snap share is terrible and he still had 6 receptions in week 1, that is promising. Now, week 2, he had about the same snap share, a little bit less. He had less targets. He only had 2 receptions, still had 30 yards, which is great. He did have a couple rushing opportunities, but not that many, and only 6 fantasy points. He will explode later in the season. Look at this next matchups against Pittsburgh, Carolina, Buffalo. The schedule here across the board is pretty dang easy for the Patriots running backs. And as long as the games are competitive, and especially if the Patriots get down with their defense really struggling right now, that's a good possibility against a lot of these teams. If they get down in these games, Henderson is going to show up. He will show up as he learns the playbook. He's still the best back on this team in terms of talent. So it's just a matter of time before he gets more involved and he starts crushing for fantasy football. Now, this week, you may want to sit him, but that's exactly why he's a buy low. Someone's going to have him on their bench so you can get him for cheap, but I would actually sell high Ramondre Stevenson for the same reasons I just talked about. We look at Ramondre Stevenson week 2. He was awesome. I mean, Miami, their defense is terrible. Don't 21 points. Now's the time to sell high. Week 1, he scored 4.7 points. What was the difference here? The only difference was Miami is terrible and the Raiders have a better defense. And he didn't get as involved. He had 2 receptions in week 1. He had 5 in week 2. His snap percentage was about exactly the same. And he just did better. Rush attempts, only a little bit more in the second game. It's just the Miami defense is bad. So that's why Henderson wasn't as involved. That's why Ramondre was more involved. And he looked amazing against one of the league's worst defenses. So 21 points is the time to sell high. If you have a good record, Stevenson will be better in the short term. But I think by the time the fantasy football playoffs come around, you're going to want to have Henderson on your team. So I'm trying to buy Henderson low, and you got to sell Ramondre high. Now, I've been talking buy low and sell high. This one right here is a buy high. Rome Odunze, I think, is going to continue to crush the entire season. Look at this target share. Top 12 in the league. That's wide receiver 1 target share. That's top 12 is a wide receiver. Fantasy points, wide receiver 5. Absolutely elite production across the board. And it hasn't just been week 2. I mean, week 1, he had 6 receptions, still a touchdown. The yards weren't there, but we scroll over to the targets. The snaps look amazing. 100% of snaps in week 2. That is the elite level option. The routes as well. Route rate, 94%, 90%. This is elite numbers. Targets, 9 and 11. This is exactly what we're looking for. Receiving air yards, 200 in week 2. And now I know they were down against the Lions. They had to air it out. But this is going to be the case most weeks with the Bears. Rome Odunze is going to be the guy. Defenses have to shut down DJ Moore. You still have to worry about Colston Loveland. You still have to worry about Cole Kmet. You've got so many other pieces to worry about that Rome Odunze is thriving. So I will pay up. I will pay almost anything I have to pay to get this guy for my team. I really do believe he will continue to have this value. So while someone else is like, maybe I'll sell high, maybe I'll capitalize off this great week, I think let's try to buy high and get this guy for our team because I think he's going to continue to crush. Now, Tucker Kraft, on the other hand, nope, it's the same story. Buy high. The main thing I love about this guy is not only the yards after the catch, which is awesome, but look at the jump in receptions from week 1 to week 2. It wasn't even that much of a closer game, to be honest, but he goes with for 6 receptions. He has a touchdown in both weeks, which is obviously amazing. He had a rush in week 1 as well. But the thing you look at in week 2, look at the routes. I know they had a lot more snaps, the routes, but the route rate improved a tiny bit. But the thing is, Jaden Reed is hurt. Jaden Reed broke his clavicle or broke his collarbone, or he's out 6 to 8 weeks. I forget what he broke. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. And that leaves Tucker Kraft as a top tier option in this offense. There's just not a lot of reliable wide receivers. You got Matthew Golden, who's a rookie. Josh Jacobs hasn't been involved in the receiving game at all. So it's now turning into Tucker Kraft season. So if this guy has multiple tight ends, which they may have Tyler Warren as well. They may have Travis Kelce. They may have drafted 2 tight ends if they drafted Tucker Kraft. And if they don't need to start him, I think Tucker Kraft is a great player to trade for now because, again, look at the schedule. And with the way the Packers have been playing, they look amazing. It's going to be pretty good stuff across the board. It does get a little bit more difficult here in the fantasy football playoffs, but still, as a tight end, he's going to be someone that can absolutely crush. Denver, they're going to be trying to shut down the wide receivers. Tucker Kraft, great option. Chicago, we've seen them struggle. They've done good against tight ends, but they've struggled on defense this year as well. And Baltimore, a great matchup as well. So even in the fantasy playoffs, I still think he can do well. So Tucker Kraft is a guy I want to trade for right now, even at an increased price. Now, Ashton Genty. For me, I honestly think he's a sell low. But the thing here is after 2 weeks, there's going to be people in your league who still believe, and that's why you can get some amazing value. Maybe even for Roma Dunze straight up could be a good deal if you have some amazing running back depth on your team. Now, if you drafted Genty, that may not be the case. You may need to find another running back, but this is pretty scary. The yards per carry is dreadful. So the points per game, that's going to update in the WalterPicks app today because this game just happened. But 7.4 fantasy points, another 43 rush yards, no touchdown. He even had 3 receptions, and he still only had 7 fantasy points. This offensive line is awful. I know he did face 2 tough rushing defenses. It will get a little bit easier, but we scroll ahead to the fantasy playoffs. They're facing Houston. That's really tough. And they do have Giants in the fantasy football championship, but they also face the Chargers again. They face Cleveland. They face Denver twice. They face Jacksonville, who's been good against running backs as well. They face Kansas City. His schedule is brutal. I honestly think selling him right now could be the move for your team. I know it's painful, but he's looked absolutely awful. So I don't think riding it out, it's just going to hurt you. I don't think he gets much better. Maybe he has a few good games, but I don't think it's going to get better for Ashton Genty. Someone it will get better for is Quidshawn Junkins. So I think he's a buy right now. He had 10 fantasy points, and that really does seem like his floor. He had 3 receptions, which is great to see as well. I do think against the Ravens, the Browns were so far down, and they weren't really competitive in this game that they're like, Judkins, go out there, do your thing. He got a lot of work for someone that just joined the team. But next week, they're facing Green Bay. They're facing Minnesota, Detroit. Like, he's going to continually have a huge role in this offense. Dylan Sampson is going to be okay as well in a receiving role. Jerome Ford, you can drop him. But I think Judkins is a good buy low right now. People have had him on their bench. They may not have expected him to play. They may see him as a bonus. So if you can get him off their bench before he has his first touchdown, you get him at a really great price. Final buy high of the video. Guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button and grab the WalterPicks app with code NOBS. You can get a free trial as well to try all the best features. And we're talking Jackson Smith-Njigba. He has scored almost 20 fantasy points for the first 2 weeks, 19.4, 18.3, a top 12 wide receiver on average, 11 and 13, without scoring a touchdown. He's got 9 receptions, 8 receptions, over 100 yards both games. We look at the targets, 13 targets, 10 targets. This guy is clearly Sam Darnold's top target. It's going to be that way every single week. And when we scroll ahead and we look at the fantasy football playoffs, some pretty tough matchups. And I think championship. I have a championship mindset, so I think championship. He does have some pretty tough matchups, but when you see the type of volume that he's going to have each and every week, that is what I'm interested in. So if you can get Jackson Smith-Njigba while he's having multiple double-digit targets without touchdowns, still scoring this many points, I do think he's a good buy high, especially if you've got like Brian Thomas Jr., or you have some of these other early round guys who have not been producing. JSN could be someone that you could swap, and they're like, oh, I got this guy in the 3rd round. I trade him for a 1st rounder. There are still people who think that way. So it may not work in your league, but I still think it's worth sending some trades to see if you can upgrade one of your wide receivers who hasn't been good. We're in the regular season now, guys, so it's important to look at what's actually been happening versus where we drafted players. And Jackson Smith-Njigba has been outperforming greatly where he was drafted. So trying to trade for him now could be a great move.